Hi guys, welcome back to Packet Rift. Do you wonder how you send the resource request from your browser on your PC get delivered to you very fast? You want to know the process behind it? Then please watch this video till end. I will try to explore CDN technology in detail. So let's get started. So guys, let's first try to understand how users get resources on the internet if CDN technology is not in use. Let's take an example of most famous site nowadays, that is Netflix, which we use to watch online movies and web series. Let's assume that Netflix has deployed their server in US and users sitting in China, Australia, and the Argentina are trying to access those movies and the web series content from the Netflix server. So when this user request the resources from Netflix servers, user request will travel from their internet provider to different internet provider uh, to reach the US servers. This user resources request will have different round trip time that is based on the distance between the service provider server and the users. As you can see here, user sitting in Argentina will have 40 millisecond of round trip time, whereas user sitting in China and Australia will have round trip time of 300 millisecond and 370 millisecond respectively. So due to higher round trip time or latency, loading of the videos on the Netflix will be slow for the China and Australian users in our example, which will lead the frustration in the user. So here definitely Netflix may face loss in the customer acquisition in other part of the globe other than US due to delayed video streaming services at a longer distance than the US location. Now, to overcome such issues of latency and long distance between the end users and the website servers, CDN technology came into the picture for rescue. Now, let's explore how the network will behave with the CDN technology. So, now let's see how user experience will be impacted positively if CDN technology is in use. Let's continue with our example of Netflix. So, when user residing in China, Australia, and Argentina, in our example, will request for a movie or web services for streaming. So, entire this CDN infra will be redirected those requests to the nearby location servers, that is CDN servers, which we can see, which is also known as the edge servers. So basically here in our example, request from the China users will be redirected any of the Europe or APAC region servers, same as for the Australia users. And Argentina will users will continue to use the US based server. So these different servers in a different geographical location in CDN infra is known as the edge server, as you can see here in our diagram, or it also known as the cache server or POP locations. So these servers store the cache version of the main website content, which users normally request from the origin server. Origin server is nothing but the server which contain the main data for the website. So this way it ensures the high quality coverage services to the end users, and content delivery is getting speed up by numerous edge servers which are located in a major continent and countries. So the CDN servers at the network edge will communicate with the original server, which is also known as the origin server or the content server, to make sure that any missed content which was not stored is getting cached here in the edge server. So whenever the user requests for those data, cache or data of those main content will be delivered to the end users. Now let's see how the user request will be redirected to the CDN server. For CDN to work, it has to uh, have default inbound gateway for all incoming traffic. And to make this happen, we will need to modify the DNS um, or server entry. So, root domain entry configuration has to be modified, and those of the subdomain as well. For our root domain, we have to change its A record, which point to the one of the CDN server's IP, and for each subdomains, modify its CNAME record. As in our example, you can see the domain name slash index dot html here, and it got um, pointed to the nsi.cdn.com. So whenever the user request for any of these contained HTML HTML contained to the origin server, the DNS entry will be such a way that it will be redirected to one of the CDN server based on the user's location. So this request will be going to the CDN server here, and those resources will be provided to user from that CDN server or nearby CDN server. If in case the request which user has resource which users are requesting is not available in that CDN cache, then that CDN server will be or the edge server or the cache server will be requesting it from the original server, that is that which hosts the main content of the website, and then it will be delivered back to the users. Here in with CDN, it has many advantage. Let's see some of them. So it has a higher bandwidth security. So CDN many way improve the security by providing the DDoS mitigation on the origin server or the main server. So server deployed on the edge of your network, CDN is perfectly situated to act as a virtual high security fence and prevent the attack on your website and the web application which is hosted on the main server. Or we can also say in CDN infra it is known as the origin web server or the origin server. Second is bandwidth cost reduction. So bandwidth consumption cost for website hosting is primary expense for any websites. So through caching and the other optimization, CDNs are able to reduce the amount of data and origin server must provide, thus reducing the hosting cost for the website owners. It also improves the load time, as we saw here in our example, by distributing the content closer to the website visitors by using the edge servers or the cache servers. Visitors, experience faster page loading uh, as content is already provided by the edge server, which is located to nearby location of the users. And fourth is high content availability and redundancy. So large amount of traffic or the hardware failure can interrupt normal website functions. So, this distribution nature of the CDN can handle more traffic and withstand the hardware failure. So as we saw, there are different edge servers. So if one edge server is down, then that the user's request will be redirected to other edge servers. Similarly, if a main server is down for any point of time for momentarily, then their cache data will be provided to the end users. CDN has some disadvantages as well. Let's see some of them. First is lack of direct control. So changes to the content in the origin server must be made through the CDN provider who is providing you the CDN services at different locations. You cannot directly change any content in the main server. Second is geographical choice and consideration. So website owner need to research their clients and choose the CDN provider that offer the most convenient server location near where they get the most of the businesses. If the website get most of its customer from the North America, let's for an example, then the server location in Europe and Asia would offer a fewer benefit. So they have to take the consideration of the service provider for the content delivery in a very granular way. Third is the sharing resources. So delivery networks have many clients and response time could vary due to the volume of the website traffic of other CDN customers. Next, we'll explore more on the CDN architecture. So when CDN is built, their underlying infrastructure plays a huge role for better content delivery to their end users. Here it shows the CDN architecture, which holds the multiple elements and the responsibility to provide the great content delivery to the end users. Let's see one by one to all of them. First is content provider. This is the actual provider who provides the web resources to their end users. In our example, we saw that that one on the Netflix, which is the content provider, which provides the movies and the web series to their end users. Second is the POP location. This is managed by the CDN provider who provides the CDN services to many businesses. This is the basic building block in CDN infrastructure. So this POP is nothing but the different regional data centers responsible for providing the cached website content to the end user in local in their local proximity. So this POP holds the multiple cached server and other networking infrastructure like our router, firewall, switches, and even the load balancers and other stuff like IDS for better content delivery and optimization of the connection to the cached server. This POP also holds the scrubbing server to prevent the DDoS and the other security related infrastructures like firewall, as I said just earlier. So there are some of the responsibility between CDN and the actual content provider. Uh, One is the authorization. CDN provider needs to have authorization to deliver the content provider's data. So this authorization has to be provided by the content provider to the CDN provider. Second is the reporting. The content provider can demand the performance analytics from the CDN provider to evaluate the quality of the CDN provider's service to their end users. Uh, so this is the responsibility of the CDN provider to provide the reporting of the utilization of the resources and the data of the main website to the content provider. Third is the resource sources, which is nothing but the content provider sends the copy of the content, website content to the from the origin server to the cache version of the server. That is the edge server at the every POP locations. Now, at bottom of the architecture of the CDN, there comes the user. That user requests the data from the content provider for their web browsing, as we saw in our example, for like Netflix movies and the web series. So this request is going to the POP's location at CDN provider, and the content delivery as delivered is nothing but the delivery of the content from the POP location or the at edge server or the cache server to the end users. Now let's understand the caching bit here. Uh, what are some of its type? Caching is, the key feature of the CDN services, as we saw earlier, that everything is cached in the content servers. So when the caching is enabled, it helps to maximize the speed of the content delivery by storing the copy of data you have requested. And when you access the data later, the cached data is accessed instead of the original data. So there are some of different type of caching. Let's see some of them. First is the browser cache. When you're when when you're when you request the resources from the internet, your web browser stores the data you have requested, and later when you try to access those data, instead of getting the content from the original server, your web browser's cache data is getting loaded and provided to you, if that is the static data that you are requested. Second is the memory cache. So this cache is normally used in the computer system, that is internally in the system, to speed up the delivery of the data and the processing of the data. So for example, for the memory cache is the static RAM, uh, which is one of the important element in the computer, where your data is stored, and when the processor is requesting for the data to process those data is provided from the static RAM. Third is the disk cache. So disk cache is the same as the memory cache. However, the difference is a usage of a type of RAM. Disk cache use a conventional RAM, whereas the memory cache use a static RAM. Fourth is the cached server. In this type of caching, dedicated servers are used for the caching of the content, and this type of caching is the main mechanism in the CDN infrastructure. So this caching server can be located anywhere at a different geographical location, and user uh, when trying to access these resources from the website, the content is provided by the cache server. So, as I said earlier, the caching is the main feature of the CDN infrastructure. So let's understand more bit with an example. Let's say you have made request to access the movie stored from the Netflix.com from their original server. The browser cache is checked first to see if the static data you have requested is already exist in the cache of the web page, or in the browser cache. So if that data is uh, not available, or it is known as a cache miss, it means that the data is not available. We'll see that in a bit, in a next section. So that cache miss, uh, if it's happening in the it's if it is happening the cache miss, then the file will be retrieved from the original source with the normal packet forwarding on the internet. And if file is already stored in the cache, then this result in a cache hit response, and the asset will be delivered from the cache. So after data is cached, and the cache data is continuously delivered wherever it demands, until it expires or the cache is cleared. Now, how to identify if your data is coming from the CDN cache server? You can verify if your assets are being delivered from the actual edge server by checking the assets response header. Let's see how to do that. Open your web browser developer tool and navigate to the network tab. From here, select any static asset and check the X cache response header. Here you can see this is the response header uh, from the developer tool. If you see in the response header, X cache value is hit, as you can see here, X cache value is hit here, which means that this asset was delivered from the CDN server cache. If the asset was not delivered from the cache, you will see here, instead of hit, you will see here as a miss, meaning that the asset was delivered from the origin server and not from the CDN cache server. So let's understand what cache hit is. The cache hit occurs when the file is requested from a cache, and cache is able to fulfill that request. So whenever you request for the resources, and when that resource is delivered from the cache server, that means that this is the hit situation, cache hit situation. And what is the cache miss? The cache miss is when the cache does not contain the requested content. Let's say if you are requesting some content from the server, and content is not available onto the cache server, then it means that the cache is been missed. So ultimately that content will be delivered from the origin server. Now let's see some of the big players in the CDN services who provide the services to the end businesses for their growing online presence. Some of them are Akamai, which is one of the good and big CDN vendor, and then Google Cloud CDN, Amazon CloudFront, Microsoft Azure CDN, Lexbase, CenturyLink, Alibaba Cloud, and StackPath. These are some of the CDN vendors who provide the CDN services. I hope you guys got good understanding of CDN architecture with this video. Please like and comment your view in the comment section and subscribe the Packet Drift for more such learnings. Thank you.